Hello guys, up here today I'll be doing a deck tech on Muddle mixture control. This is a deck that I built around the card Muddle mixture. So this card is 2 blue mana for an instant that can counter target instant or sorcery spell, and it has transmute for 1 blue blue. Transmute means that you can discard this card at sorcery speed to find any 2-drop in your deck and put it in your hand. So what 2-drops do we have in our deck? So we have, first of all, Circle of Protection. So Circle of Protection red, Circle of Protection green, and Circle of Protection blue in the main deck to counter basically any type of aggression from our opponent if we have enough mana. So these cards are super powerful, but they are a bit difficult to put in your main deck because if you have too many copies of one Circle of Protection, then you're going to lose to the other colored aggro decks, right? If you put 4 Circle of Protection red in your main deck, you're going to lose to Stompy, and you're going to have a good burn matchup. Well, the issue here is if we have 4 tutors for any of our Circle of Protection, then we are going to be very, very favored against any form of aggressive decks. Of course, this relies on us using the transmutability and then casting the Circle of Protection. So this means that it will only enter the battlefield around turn 4 if we are lucky. So how do we make sure to be not dead at that time, right? So we play also a suit of removal and counter spells. So let's start with our removal spells. We have 2 cast downs, instant speed destroys anything, very, very good in the format. There are very few cards that don't die to this, so it's very flexible removal spell, and it's instant speed, so it works pretty well with the rest of the deck. Then we have 3 Chainer's Edict. This is pretty good against boggles, against go tall strategies, and also it's just a value because you can flash it back later in the game. Then we have Echoing Decay, which is pretty good against small creatures and token decks. Echoing Truth, which can be used against tokens, but it can also be used to bounce your own permanents or to bounce some random permanent that is causing you trouble, like a Pestilence or something. So this is kind of a catch-all answer to everything, and since we have Muddle Mixture, we can find these two. And then we have Journey to Nowhere, which can be very useful against any kind of problematic creature that needs to be exiled. So another important thing is, since we are a 3-color deck, sometimes we need to find a removal spell with Muddle Mixture. Well, the reason I wanted to have at least one Journey to Nowhere is if we have white mana in play but we don't have black mana yet, we can find the removal spell and use it that turn. Then in the counter spell suite, of course, we have first Muddle Mixture, which can be used against counter decks, for example, or against a fling, so it can be used against elves, can counter also a Distant Melody, so it has some applications in the counter spell side of the card. But we also run the counter spells with 4 counter spells, OG, 1 Exclude and 2 Devious Cover-Up. Devious Cover-Up also works as a win condition, so if you don't know what Devious Cover-Up does, you counter a spell, that spell is exiled, so it has a bit of value there, but also you can shuffle up to 4 cards from your graveyard to your library. So that means that you can recur your best spells in your deck several times. With 2 Devious Cover-Up, you can kind of cycle those 2, so you never mill. And then we have 1 Exclude as an additional counterspell that can be used as a value play too. So how do you normally play with counterspells? If you play counterspells, you want to have instant speed interaction, right? So we have a lot of cast downs that are instant speed, and we have also Echoing Decay, Echoing Truth that are instant too. And then in our card draw suite, we have 4 Frantic Inventories, which are pretty good with Muddle Mixture, since you can find the 3rd or 4th copy if you want to. So it's going to be reliably a very good draw engine for our deck. Then we have 1 Landnam's Legacy, which is kind of a weird card. What this does is you shuffle one of your cards from your hand onto your library, and then you draw 2 cards at the beginning of the next turn's upkeep. So this delays the draw, which can be useful in some situations, for example, against discard spells. But most importantly, this can shuffle one of your useless Circle of Protections against, for example, if you're against Toppy, you can shuffle your Circle of Protection red. And since it's 2 CMC, you can fetch it with Muddle the Mixture. So it's a way of having card filtering with Muddle the Mixture. Then we have 3 Brainstorms. Again, if we have additional copies of Circle of Protection or one-offs that we don't want to draw, we can shuffle them with Brainstorm, putting them in the library, then shuffle with Evolving Wise or Dash Barons. So those are all instant speed. Then we have Ponder and Preordain as additional card filtering. And then rounding up our deck, we have 4 Augur of Bolas, which can be very useful against any creature deck. So this provides us with a life buffer against most decks, and it also provides access to more of our deck by having a bit of card selection in the card that we find. So even though we have some cards that aren't instant or sorceries, most of our cards are. So we have around, I've done the math but I forgot, around 31 instant or sorceries. So most of our deck is instant or sorceries for Augur of Bolas. As you can see in the curve, we have most of our deck being 2-drops. This means that Muddle the Mixture is going to be more or less Grim Tutor, 3 mana, sorcery speed, find anything in your deck and put it in your hand. So then the biggest issue is finding a proper mana base. So since we want to play Brainstorm because we have cards that are situationally good and we want to put them back in our deck or just shuffle them away from our hand, we need to play some fetches. So we have 4 Ash Barons and 3 Evolving Wilds. So this also, besides just providing a way of shuffling the Brainstorm, with this we also have a way of finding any of our colors. So this works as 3 lands. Additionally, Ash Barons can be useful at being an instant speed lay of the land, basically. So this provides us with some things to do at instant speed. So if we play, for example, blue in the early turns, holding up counterspell, our opponent doesn't do anything, we can shuffle Ash Barons in their end step. So even though it doesn't look like it, it's pretty good in in draw go strategies. So for our fetches, we have basics. We have just bare minimum in the off colors. So we have 2 swamps. This is because we have black on Chainer Select, and sometimes we want to double spell with black spells. 1 plains. This is mostly a splash on the Circle of Protection, showing the nowhere cards, and in the sideboard we have also some white spells, but we don't need normally more than 1 white spell on our deck. Then 8 islands, and this, provided with the rest of our mana base, is going to provide us with around 17 sources of blue for our counter spells, Muddle the Mixture, Devious Cover-Up. So most of our deck is blue, so we need to have a lot of untapped sources and sources of blue. Then, rounding up our mana base, we have some bounce lands. So this provides us with a lot of value in the land slot. This is basically 2 lands on one card. So we have 2 Dimir Aqueduct and 1 Asirius Chancery. Of course, we need these lands to be blue. Most of our deck has blue requirements, so a split between 2 and 1 I think is correct. But you could also play like 3 Dimir Aqueducts because most of our non-blue spells are black. So yeah, that's basically the main deck. Then let's go to the sideboard. So in the sideboard we have the other Circle of Protection White and Circle of Protection Black. If we are against any deck that has those colors, we are most likely to bring them in. But against, for example, Mono Black Control, you don't really need this. But it provides us with a lot of value if we want to. So both Circle of Protections are good here. Then we have Low Missionary, which is pretty good against an aggressive deck. Again, just what we need is to gain time until we are able to drop the Circle of Protection and just win with that. Seal of Cleansing, this is a disenchant, the disenchant that I decided to play. This could be easily a disenchant, I think. I might even change it in the future. This card is basically a sorcery speed disenchant and just stays on the battlefield, so it can be used at any time without spending mana. Yep. Then we have Standard Bearer, which is also amazing against gold all strategies, but it has some utility against any green deck. Any elves or zombie players are going to be sad to be seeing this against them. Then we have a couple of removal spells on black. We have one Chain Acidic more and one Nausea. Nausea is a bit worse than Suffocating Fumes, but the ability to just find it with Muddle Mixture makes it so much better. I even thought about putting one of these in the main deck. I don't think we need to, but it's something that you can do. And Chain Acidic is mostly there for not to beat Boggles, because I think we have a good game versus Boggles, but it's mostly because we have so many silver bullets in our deck that sometimes we need to bring some things in. So cards that are just generally good, like Chain Acidic or Lord Missionary, are going to be useful in post-board matches most of the time. So I wanted to have an additional removal spell, so I decided to go with Chain Acidic, but you could play Innocent Blood or another Cast Down or something like that. Then on the blue side we have 3D spells. These are pretty useful against any other control deck and most blue decks. Also in post-board battles, most of the format is going to bring instants versus us. For example, Pyroblast, Dispel, counter spells, and so on. So we need to have an answer to their answers. So we have Dispel in the sideboard. And then we have 2 Hydroblasts, which are pretty good against Burn, of course, but also is useful against Affinity. And then we have 1 Jace's Erasure. This is an additional win condition if we need to. You could make an argument to put this in the main deck. I think it's just too low of a win condition to play. I prefer to have the Devious Cover-Up in the main deck and have this in the sideboard if we need to bring additional win conditions. So against a control deck, you can just put this in early and just mill them out throughout the whole game. Again, the upside of this, of course, is that it's 2 CMC, so we can find it with Muddle. And then we have 1 Deep Analysis. Again, in the same side of Chain Acidic, if we want to have more card draw, we can bring this in. If we need to just take things out and we don't have enough things to put in, we have a Deep Analysis, which is a pretty strong card. So that rounds up our sideboard, and hope you like it. This is a kind of a mini deck, but it's pretty fun to play. So let's see you in the games.